4. Preaching obligation of the rulers. وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. And there should be some people among you deputed to call towards righteousness, enjoining good and forbidding evil, and only those who make this arrangement shall achieve salvation. Surah number 3, verse 104. It is evident from the words of this verse that Muslims are not addressed in it in their individual capacity. On the contrary, they are addressed here in their collective capacity. Thus, this directive relates to the rulers of a state. The Almighty says that if in a certain place of land Muslims are politically dominant, then they should depute some people from among themselves who should call people towards righteousness, enjoin good, and forbid evil. It is obvious that in some cases the obligation of forbidding people from evil shall be discharged by exhorting and urging the Muslims, and in others through the force of law. For the first mode, those in authority have the Friday sermon available to them, which is specifically their prerogative. For the second mode, those in authority have the service of the police department, which in an Islamic state is established for this very purpose and works within the jurisdiction specified for it to achieve this objective. It is thus evident that according to the Quran, it is the duty of the Muslim rulers to call people towards righteousness, enjoin good, and forbid evil. It is incumbent upon them to discharge the following responsibilities also, besides the other naturally imposed ones. As the Quran says, الَّذِينَ إِن مَّكَّنَّاهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ أَقَامُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتَوُا الزَّكَاةَ وَأَمَرُوا بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَنَهَوْا عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ. These believers are those who, if we grant them authority in this land, will be diligent in their prayer and pay zakah and enjoin what is virtuous and forbid what is evil. Surah number 22, verse 41. 5. Preaching obligation of an individual. وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ يَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ. And believers, both men and women, are friends to one another. They urge one another to what is good and forbid what is evil. Surah number 9, verse 71. The word amr is used in this verse to mean urging to what is good. In Arabic, just as this word means giving a directive, it also means giving counsel and advice. The fact that this verse begins with the words وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتُ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ testifies that it is used here in the latter meaning. The Almighty has said that people should be urged to whatever sense and human nature call as good, and forbidden from what sense and human nature call as evil. In Surah Asr, this is stated from another aspect by the words وَتَوَاسَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاسَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. The Quran says, وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاسَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاسَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Time bears witness that these people shall definitely be in a state of loss. Yes, except those who accepted faith and did righteous deeds, and exhorted one another to the truth, and exhorted one another to remain steadfast on it. Surah number 103, verses 1 to 3. It is evident from this that this is the responsibility of every person and from among the basic requirements of faith. Whether we belong to the common masses or to the intellectual class, whether we live in a jungle or in a city, whether we are the citizens of a Muslim state or residents of a non-Muslim country, we are liable to carry out this responsibility. Every person is liable to it, and it is among the requirements of faith. If a believer does righteous deeds and also fulfills this requirement of faith, the Quran has ensured him protection from the punishments of this world and of the hereafter, and he shall be granted the eternal kingdom of heaven. It is evident from the nature and scope of this preaching as mentioned in these verses that the preacher and the preached are not distinct from one another. Every person at all times acts as a preacher as well as an addressee to this preaching. This is evident by the words used by the Quran, بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ, or they are friends to one another. This responsibility should be discharged by a father towards his son, and a son towards his father, a husband towards his wife, and a wife towards her husband, a brother towards his sister, and a sister towards her brother, a friend towards his friend, and a neighbor towards his neighbor. In short, a person should discharge it towards every person who has an immediate relation with him. When he sees that someone among them has adopted an attitude which is contrary to the truth, he should try to urge him according to his knowledge, capacity, and ability to mend his ways. It is quite possible that while at one time of the day we deliver some truth to a person, and at another he does this service to us. Today we may urge a person to the right way, and tomorrow that person might urge us to the same. In short, a Muslim should keep discharging this duty in his immediate circle whenever he gets the opportunity. Moreover, it is also essential that this preaching be directed from the nearest to the next, and a person should foremost address his family members and try to save them from the fire of hell. He must be aware of the fact that if he went after others while leaving aside these immediate people who might be deep in evil, then, in spite of all his efforts, he may end up at the losing end in the hereafter. The Quran says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَهْلِيكُمْ نَارًا وَقُودُهَا النَّاسُ وَالْحِجَارَةُ عَلَيْهَا مَلَائِكَةٌ غِلَاظٌ شِدَادٌ لَا يَعْصُونَ اللَّهَ مَا عَمَرَهُمْ وَيَفْعَلُونَ مَا يُؤْمَرُونَ. Believers, protect yourselves and your kindred from a fire fueled with these men and these stones they worship. In charge of it will be stern and mighty angels who never disobey God's directive and properly do what they are told. Surah number 66, verse 6. Here, this should also remain clear that within one's immediate sphere there exists a sphere in which a person possesses authority. In a family system, a person often has two capacities. He is a father and he is a husband. As per the dictates of common sense and human nature, a person has authority in these two spheres. It is because of this authority that a person in his capacity of a husband and that of a father is responsible for the affairs of his wife and children respectively. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is reported to have said, "Beware that each of you is a shepherd, and each person will be held accountable for his herd." Al-Bukhari, Al-Jami' As-Sahih, page 412, hadith number 2554. It is about this circle of authority in which the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ directed Muslims to try to curb any evil they see in it. He is reported to have said, "When any person among you sees an evil in his circle of authority, he should try to curb it by the force of his hands. If he does not have the faith to do it, he should try to curb it by his tongue. And if even this is not possible, he should consider it bad in his heart, and this is the lowest level of faith." Muslim, Al-Jami' As-Sahih, page 42, hadith number 177. The words, "if he does not have the strength," of this narrative do not refer to physical strength or the strength of resources which make a person liable to follow some directive. They refer to one's courage, whose source is one's faith. Thus, the foremost responsibility of a person in his circle of authority is to curb evil by force, unless some religious expediency is attached to it. To curb evil by the tongue is the second level of faith, and the last level is that a person should at least consider it to be evil in his heart. If he does not even have this feeling, then it means that he has become totally devoid of faith. In the opinion of this writer, if this narrative is deliberated upon in the light of the Quran, then its correct interpretation is the one presented above. A husband, a father, and a Muslim ruler are no doubt responsible to curb evil by force within their circles of authority. Less than this, whatever action they take shall indeed be a show of their weak faith. However, if they venture to use force outside their circle of authority, then this is the worst kind of disorder and anarchy that they can create. Such measures have no place in religion. The Quran is absolutely clear in this regard. As a preacher, no messenger of God was ever given the authority beyond reminding and lucidly presenting religion. It says, إِنَّمَا أَنْتَ مُذَكِّرٌ لَسْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ بِمُسَيْطِرٍ. Your duty is only to remind them, you are not to force them. Surah number 88, verses 21 and 22. 6.